Okay, I've been advised to put in a disclaimer at the beginning of this show. You're going to hear terms like non-binary forgiveness, non-binary forgiver, non-binary gratitude. I want to make it clear before you watch this show that this does not mean that we're in favor of the satanic cult, trans movement, or the secret space program, body transfer, gender dysphoria trans movement, or the MK Ultra style junk that's going on right now that you see politically. Yes on the LGBTQ, no on the weaponized versions. I want to make that absolutely clear. What those terms meant when Vesta came up with those, and it was brilliant. It was actually mocking the bad weaponized stuff in favor of, say, forgiveness being not obligatory to just feeling an obligation, or I should say obligation towards doing it because of indoctrination, nor should you do it because somebody else tells you to. It has to be more for the healing purposes of it, or here, intuitively, spiritually, all of it. Gratitude, same thing. There's two types. The be grateful for what you have, but then somebody's saying or the bad guys will basically have you do that to make a mental wall, saying we don't want you to have more than what you have. Also, being grateful for what you have is still good. So there's two sides to that, and I'm explaining this in the show, but I wanted to put this disclaimer at the front for those hashtag terms that were in there. I don't want somebody to think that somehow now we've taken a side politically. No, we've stepped outside of all of this, and we make a mockery of the theater of puppets whenever we get the chance to do so. So, and we always tell people step outside of this, be non-binary when it comes to politics, but of course with everything else, yes, you're an I am presence. Like I've said about the trans stuff before. So if anybody's going to get butthurt about this, yeah, I'm putting this right at the beginning here. So watch the show. Even if you feel you want to slap me in the face or punch me in the face at this moment, watch the show. It turned out to be actually pretty good. So, and continue to watch GIC, of course. Go to GalacticIntraversalConsortium.com. Subscribe. We have coupon codes up that are on my Facebook currently, and you're going to see coupon codes being presented throughout the year for discounts on the subscription on the website. You're going to see new products come up at some point as well, and there's some on our Etsy store even while I'm speaking, and will more than likely be even in the future. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy. I do want to make it clear, if you're recruiting for a cult, like if you're trying to get kids in on the sex change thing, that's a cult. That's the bad side of this. Good side is inclusivity naturally, without indoctrination. Example is the parents, these Christian parents that thought their gay daughter was bad, and she didn't know where to turn right to a teacher that was trans, trying to get her to sex change. Bad. But then she tried to kill herself, so caught between two cults. So where do you expect the person to go? So no recruiting. You get somebody to come to that ideal on their own. No indoctrinating. If they're naturally that and they have a question for somebody different. That's how it is with all children. You don't want to indoctrinate. You want to teach or allow it to bloom naturally. So that's where I'm at. There's the difference. We've done other recordings on this on GIC. I won't go into the full shebang, but you want to know more, it's on the GIC website, GalacticIntraversalConsortium.com. We put some things behind the paywall because some people might have a selective hearing and not hear it correctly. I just want people to know this disclaimer at the beginning is because some things were touched on here, and I didn't want somebody to get butthurt over. Granted, somebody's going to. Sure as a world, there's going to be one guy or one lady on here. Or, yes, Isaac, somewhere in between. Yes, I get it. That will get butthurt and complain, like we had a flat earther complain about the other one. One person. So YouTube, don't flag this. Besides, we have a backup anyway, just in case you do. So it is 10:36 a.m., 10:37 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, March 19th, 2023. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's topic is going to be a very interesting one. People know this. Sorry, my glasses are reflecting again. There we go. People know this, think they know this topic well, and they don't. This would be more along the lines of more forgiveness and gratitude. And some of you may disagree with what we're going to say in this episode today based on old teachings that are out there, but we're providing new perspectives on this particular subject. Before we even begin that talk, or that argument, or that counterpoint, we have to open this circle to true benevolence. But since this being a regular lifting show, this would be affirmation and blessing at the beginning of this. So, Joanna, you want to start?
Sure. We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. I pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let those energies love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. I pray for myself, for Chris, for our friends, for our family as well, to let those healing energies in. Let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. I ask for benevolence, guides, friends, galactics, anyone listening that has no conflicting agenda, has family members, soul family, to come in and to assist with this show, to again let the grace and the healing come through so that it will help you all and help us in these days that we live in. So with that, I say the one thing, that if you agree and you accept these healing energies, if you accept benevolence coming in and maybe kind of shooing away some energies that are necessarily not for your highest good right now, I hope you agree and use the term, so be it.
And so be it. So it is. Sometimes you can say so mote it be, or it is forever so, either one of those words.
Anything.
So, yeah. So same difference, or amen if you choose. So
amen means so be it.
Yeah. So people get irked because that's linked to religion, but it's still, yeah, you know what I mean. But anyway, this particular topic I found interesting. Bjorn brought this up to us in a private talk at one point. And I think this deserves its own kind of day in the sun. So where I'm getting at with this is you hear a lot of, I'll use an example. I saw a movie quite many years ago, my mother and I did, where it was about this, my mother watched Lifetime stuff then. So it was about this woman who'd had a family member that was murdered. And she was in an Amish community, and this Amish community basically said, "No, you must forgive this person. This is our belief system." And this person was saying, "No, I don't have to do any of that." And then that community began to shun her as a result. And this is where I draw the line with this. I saw this, and this is a perfect example of this because of the fact I hear this a lot in religious communities and metaphysical New Age communities, but also just in general. I hear this, that forgiveness is one of the highest forms of healing. Yeah, that's true, but if it's a natural process and not forced because of some form of indoctrination or something of that nature, like religion. Yes, to also gratitude as well. On the flip side of that, you must be grateful for things. Yes, in theory, yes. But I've also seen the psyops end of both of these, whereas if you're grateful for what you have, you're not wanting to manifest more beyond that. And you're basically saying, this is it right here. And or then there's the good flip side of it, to where you're grateful for what you have, therefore you then allow more in.
there's two sides to this argument right here. I've heard both many times, in both the forgiveness aspect and the gratitude aspect. I've heard them both on both sides. The targeted individual community tends to cling to one side, saying, "Oh no, that's a psyops," basically saying you're being tricked into a contract, saying that or consent to not want as much as say the cabal has in wealth, you know. And I can agree to that. The cabal put that out there like the root of all money is the root of all evil. They created that, or the want of money was the root of all evil, so people wouldn't attain the same power and wealth that they have attained over the centuries. That I can agree, but at the same time, you can see where it would go too far and you would become someone like themselves. I can actually see that. With gratitude, I see both sides, and forgiveness, I see both sides. Even though in my original book From the Fall to the Lifting, I anchored to only one side of this, but the analytical side of me found both edges to these different swords, essentially. And this is why this needs to be discussed in this way, because the people are either anchoring over here and basically saying religious indoctrination must do or cannot on the TI end of the spectrum. It cannot accept because we've been injured. I see both, and you have to harmonize in both sides here. Know when one applies to a particular situation or the other, and you cannot let a religious indoctrination rule your intuitive side. The one that you heard me talk about on GIC quite a long time ago was I saw on Facebook a woman who said that she had gotten a communication from her ex-husband and that her intuition was telling her not to invite this person over. Well, she said, but the Christian side of me was obligated to do it. The thing of it is, by the end of that evening, she had to have the cops come and get him. And because of some abuse situation, she was slightly unclear as to what actually took place. But the thing of it is, you saw both things. But the intuition told her, which was the higher form, and the indoctrinated Christian side was the lower form. And you saw that people were anchored to this, and it was actually the intuition that won out every single time. When you were unbiased to a form of indoctrination. And that's what, both on the targeted individual side and the religious indoctrinated side, they're both in their own right forms of indoctrination that don't allow for the openness on either side. This says you must forgive or must be in gratitude. This side says no, you must not. It's a form of in between. You know when you should and when you should not. It's somewhere in between both those philosophies. So that's where I'm at with this particular topic. This is what I've discovered between both communities. Neither side is completely wrong if you get rid of the indoctrinated habitual sides on both. Target individuals, I'm on your side with this. I get the psyops. If there's a major AI psyops and government psyops, well, CIA, whatever the hell you guys want to call it. Yes, I agree. Religious side, you can't be forced into forgiving, loving, or being in gratitude, but it is still a good idea. So yes, I see both of them. So yeah, this is where I'm at.
Yeah. So what's really important about this is to understand, first of all, what Chris is saying, that there is an actual psyops out there that is intent to divide and conquer in this way, to get you polarized to what you think is or is not just a psyops, because that's going to keep you preoccupied, in a cul-de-sac, right? And actually not let you see any benefits of anything, because you're going to be preoccupied with something that is true, that there is a psyops going on to try, but then you don't move past it. You don't move past
on either side
preoccupation with the psyops part of it. And so you then don't gain the benefits of something that, again, as I say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There is something to this, but again, it's all related to interpretation of these words. So the funny thing is that when we were having our discussion, we were like, man, there needs to be another word. Forgiveness has been so shot. the word, the intentions, the true meaning, things like that. The word itself, there needs to be a new word, because the goal of all of that is to help you move forward so you can continue on your spiritual journey. That's really what we're talking about, not getting stuck. And so, because what happens is that when you're stuck because you're continually playing it in your mind, or you're continually running into scenarios, or you're continually doing things like this and not moving past it. And then that really is a sign. So what we want to do is re-talk about those words from our perspective. What is, I come up with a phrase, a healing to move on, the law of one pair, a healing.
Can these things be healing and cathartic to the person? Yes.
Well, the reason is because you're going to break the loop of its control over you. Because again, you may falsely think you have control, but you actually don't. You're reacting continually to a situation that you may feel is unfair or not right, out of what I believe is a misinterpretation of what was really going on. Again, in religion, I would say it's a misinterpretation of doctrine, because do I actually believe in a lot of religions that the God or the source or the whatever wants you to continually do this and have your get slapped over and over? No.
You can't circle the toilet, but you can't be forced to be
not the true one, but there can be all sometimes misinterpretation of some of these doctrine. And so, we're asking you to, again, discern for yourself, feel what feels right, but how do you get out of it? So again, in my perspective, when you use the word forgiveness has nothing to do with the person who did the offense. Forgiveness has everything to do with you and being able to move and grow past it, because there will be times when there is an offense done to you, and there will be no problem with who caused that offense to continue their behavior, to have no regret or remorse, do you see what I mean? To enjoy that. Mm-hmm. So what do you do in those kinds of situations? Now, again, when I talk about instances like that, and I just said kind of a person, but it doesn't have to be a person. It could be an institutionalized structure or way of doing things, right? It could be the whole systems process that individuals may or may not be a part of. So people are actually being, I'm going to just say, having offenses done upon them and being shown malice and disrespect in many different ways. It's becoming more and more evident now. Okay. Everyone, again, you're questioning, does the, governmental bodies really have my best interest at heart? Do the medical communities and pharmaceuticals really have my best interest at heart? Right. Now some people in some places, the question should be there, does the police, does the law system, okay, do the courts and judges, and does anything actually have human beings' true best interests at heart anymore? Does the school system? What's going on? So there's so many different places right now that there are generalized offenses going on, that how do you move past it? I think one of the things that you have to understand is that in that word forgiveness, which again, I think is a terrible word to use now because it doesn't accurately, it displays an old way. We're somehow tied into that word is your acceptance that this is okay over here. And it's not, and it never will be. Okay. So if you feel that way, and that's the one thing that's holding you back from this, then what you need to understand is what we're talking about has nothing to do with that, because I would be right there with you. I would certainly wish they were, if it was a person, that they were on the other side of the world and we never had to meet again. I certainly would hope in their lifetime they would reap the rewards of the consequences of their actions. If it wasn't just in this situation, I sure hope they get the other side of that coin, now, or it may be in another lifetime. But again, it may not occur. So we're not talking that.
The forgiveness of self is really
So sometimes you have to, again, when you look at forgiveness, you have to look at the shame, blame, and guilt. We use those words all the time. The shame, blame, and guilt that you're carrying. It could be because I was stupid and I didn't listen to my intuition. Okay. It could be, how was I so dumb and not know this? It could be, my actions, maybe participating or allowing in something that really was not in anyone's best interest, caused harms to even other people. So what you have to actually look at is what is going on inside of you. And again, with the understanding, the simplistic understanding that we do not know everything, that our goal is to walk along this earth in being sovereign, being authentic. For some of us and for a lot of us, those people that are normally stuck in the area of having a hard time forgiving, to move on for themselves, normally have some pretty hardcore belief systems that they need to look at that are holding them back. So the foundational beliefs that justice should be done, justice shall be done, but they're not seeing justice done. And so there is a stop. Now, sometimes, again, that can be a great motivating factor for people to pursue something in a certain area. And a lot of that needs to be happening now, where people in a political system or in a governmental system or in a court system or looking at schools, that people need to champion going after these types of injustices. And again, hopefully for some, that would be being a recipient of some of these injustices would then spark the wanting to push. And again, that's great. And especially if you have warrior energies, that's great. But again, hopefully doing it in a way that will get you somewhere instead of a way that won't get you anywhere. But what we're talking about is the letting go. Okay, the letting go of the offense, even for those that end up championing, a cause down the line to change things, they had to go through a forgiveness, in a sense, to allow them to move on with those energies.
Mm-hmm.
They did not have to accept this as good, because now they're motivated to do something about it. Okay, they, are seeing the world maybe a little bit differently than they did before. They're having to look at their own personal shame, blame, and guilt over something and moving past that to move and to grow and to try and make a change and to try and let this not happen to others. So when you're looking at this, what you have to look at is that it's a mechanism, again, to help you heal, to help you grow and expand. This is what we're talking about, to move past it. Because when you get stuck inside of something, you are now not growing, and you're actually just creating an energy for someone else to use, and they do use it. So when you talk about, again, you don't realize you are, but you are. So when
notice how she points to me each time she says, well,
I know you think it's intentional, but it's the way
it's a subconscious thing, I guess.
But we all have our issues, so I can point to me too. But what I'm trying to say is that you will know that you are moving forward and healing and looking at yourself and healing when it is not now preoccupying your thoughts all the time. Mm-hmm. And you do not want your thoughts completely so stopped up, again, that you're in constant anger, that you are beginning to hate other people. Okay, that's a big one. You begin to just hate other people that didn't do anything to you. Everybody's stupid. You find the stupid in everyone, right? You find all the flaws. You find all the imperfections. You find all the injustice. The reason I say that, because then that is certainly in contrast to the other area that we're talking to, which is gratitude. So you will block your ability to see any gratitude in anything if you so hardcorely hang on to something that potentially wasn't right and fair, and you're going to hang on to all of that. And thus what ends up happening is that you're basically, the energies are saying, this is what I want to experience. So I can't stress that enough when we say, what do you want to experience? Because you send out energies where your thoughts and everything are looking at something. And so if your mind is in anger and chaos and this, that, and the other, because you haven't been able to say, you're right, it was an injustice, it was or was not dealt with in an equitable manner, that person is still out there. That institution is still functioning and doing the same thing. If you are not able to move past that, to now focus your mind on seeing this needs to change. Institutions need to now look like A, B, C, D, E. People need, people, advocation needs to happen so that law enforcement can deal with people. Because right now there's a lot of problem with that, especially in certain cities where it's just a revolving door and people are out harming and harming and harming. But if you cannot move past that, then you now become a dysfunction within it. And those energies are actually allowing things like that to continue. So you're harming yourself, you're harming, your community, because your energies would probably be more well spent on, again, you guys don't see the power in this co-creation, I think, a lot yet, about daydreaming in what you want to be. I want to experience this. I want to experience the police being able to apprehend and pull people off the streets that don't belong there. I want to see these institutions. First of all, I want to really know what's going on, which I do actually believe is a belief system of people, because it's being shown before you.
Yes,
truly how all these
either
things.
arresting, either you see one side not wanting to keep the criminals arrested and one wanting to do it too much. So politically polarized
Right.
groups. Yeah.
So the goal is, how do we create the balance? When you have these things happen to you, I would hope in the end, part of you is saying, I don't want this to happen to me or someone else again. Then how do you now take those energies, move forward from that incident, and then be able to help apply them in a way to make positive change, instead of being caught up, and we like to say circling the toilet, continually circling the toilet.
And you see these politically polarized groups. You have one side thinks it's all supposed to be forgiveness and love over here. Then you have hardcore, they want to make examples of like pot smokers and little bread thieves, basically. And you don't want that.
Right. And in all honesty, in the world that I am co-creating, no, I don't see these people freely roaming around harming people. It's not what I want. I know that there will be some of that contrast. We have to learn from some of that contrast. Souls will continue to learn. So I'm not naive to think it's going to turn into kumbaya and everyone's great poof. That's not going to happen. But I will say that you have to understand yourself, and you have to understand how energies work to know that it's not in your highest good to constantly. Now, is it in your highest good? Of course, at the moment when you're trying to say there's some person out there that's really dangerous or something going on, of course it is. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the lingering on that continues, that grips somebody, and you are not, again, moving forward, and you'll know the signs. You start hating everything. You start hating everybody. You start not wanting to interact. You start seeing everybody's flaws. You start seeing everything. And again, they're probably, for some people, when it really gets back, there won't be 1 ounce of gratitude for anything. It's just completely now polarized into a different area. And I can guarantee you're never going to grow if you're in that state. One of the hardest areas, again, I'll briefly touch on it. This is a difficult area, because we like to talk about things when we know the answers, when we feel like we can really give something positive. We don't know all the answers to the secret space program and what happened to people. Okay. We do know that people are having memory breakthroughs. We do know that.
And targetings as a result.
Targetings because of it. We do know that as people were brought back in, certain mechanisms were put into place. Either they were, I like to say, they were never deactivated. They were now activated to come onto this side and to now look for others and to cause havoc even within groups of others. Again, a sort of self-farming that, again, keeps individuals from moving past it, healing, and then growing spiritually, because the goal would be is that those that brought you in and that utilized your talents or enhanced your talents to utilize them, they do not want those talents to resurface on here.
Yeah, they want you to have an arm tied behind your back, but also they include like some of the fake insiders that are out there, and plus both sides of this same argument we were talking about associated with this. On one hand, yes, being angry about what has taken place that shows you're free and sovereign outside of any of these indoctrinated systems, any of these taught systems. But at the same, on that same identical thread, if you stay in that space, of course, you have every right to be angry about what happened and hate these people. That is not in question. What is in question is whether you're staying in that spot to because you're wanting justice, or you're staying in that spot because now you're caught in this loop, and then it's self-flagellation at that point, and it becomes this weird also guilt cycle as well, where you add this: should I forgive myself? Did I do something contractually wrong on my soul level, or what have you? Does the soul go through this because it wants to experience? Yes, but then people get caught in this loop. Well, it must have been a contract. It must have been I must have been I must have consented to this somewhere. That is also not completely true as well. What is true is if you stay in a certain spot, you're not going to come out of it. Plus, this is another angle to this I just saw the other day. Somebody posted something on Facebook that I thought was quite interesting. This involves being uncomfortable as a if you're uncomfortable, you're in a spot of evolution, which is still holds. That's true. Like if you're processing, but this person also made the argument: why do you have to be uncomfortable to evolve? Why can't that just involve laughter, joy, and things you love to do as well? Why can't it be on that end of the spectrum? So it's both as one. And so not polarizing one or the other, it's actually both dependent on the situation by which it's meant to.
And you're actually talking about the point that I'm trying to point out. When you become polarized, you can't go to laughter and joy. You can't go to laughter, joy. Usually laughter, joy is funny and gratitude. So you can't get there. The goal is to keep you polarized, okay? Either in this state of constant joy or whatever, where you're not recognizing things that you need to recognize because it hurts and you don't want to. So that isn't 100% cool either. Or, if I should put an asterisk there, if your goal is to continue to grow. Now, some people will polarize themselves and they'll be happy as a lark their entire life. But that was their choice. That's where they wanted to be. So usually the audiences that that are more drawn to us are those that are on this spiritual journey and wish to continue it, where we like to talk about where the hang-ups and the hiccups can be.
Evolution can be uncomfortable. That's usually a standard, but why does it always have to be?
And it doesn't. And it's a point. But what you have to recognize right now, and a part of the healing process and not getting caught up into it, is to truly recognize what's going on. I think that's why we get a lot of pushback, because what we try to talk about is what we really feel is going on, what we really feel is out there as far as obstacles and different things that is put out there by an energy that is extremely intelligent. And it's almost like hedge betting. I can keep them from not growing. I'm going to put all these barriers in their way. Right? I'm not So besides going to keep them not growing, I'm going to get them to grow, and I'm going to use their energy. I'm going to use them up like a battery. So you have to understand what we try to talk about are what are some of those things that people are running across that are very real. That again, if you understand that, then it starts to diminish some of the thought process, because again, it will not be instant pudding that these challenges poof away. And so how do you be wise to them? So again, the simple things like, you want to do better in this concept of forgiveness. I don't want to fall for that again. Well, what made you fall for it the first time? Did you not listen to 1 ounce of your intuition? Did you have that sinking in the gut feeling that you didn't listen to? So again, when you look at forgiveness, a lot of it is about, let me forgive myself and let me be wiser and not put myself into a position, or let me advocate for changes in a certain institutional way to try and help change or put together positive change. And then part of that as well, we are a communal group. If COVID and the issues related to did not show people, when people are meant, in a general sense, most people are meant to be social. They're meant to communicate. Life has always been about sharing challenges, sharing things, and so part of this as well is about sharing, because you don't want to see your family go through the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. You're sitting around the dinner table. Well, this is what I learned. I didn't listen to my gut at all. Please listen to your gut, right? How are we going to move forward? Okay. Everyone can agree that if it was a particular act with a particular person who's now on the streets again, the justice system is wrong. What are we going to do about trying to advocate to change the justice system? What are we going to do? Are people bought? Is there bribery? What's going on out there? And you're going to have to kind of figure it out. That's where you start to change the tone of being a victim who's stuck in a phase of, let's say, lack of forgiveness, to now an advocate for positive change. Again, talking to family members and doing everything. But does that mean you want a person like that walking the streets or anywhere near you ever in your life? No. Does it mean if someone really harms somebody that, you really want those type of people on this earth? Probably not. No. Does it mean that they're going to poof from this earth? Not all of them. There will be some challenges for people to face, be it just testing their own intuition. Are they listening to it or not? So again, we want to get rid of a part of what that word forgiveness expects, because again, if you fall for that side of it, in my opinion, then you are now saying it's okay for these things to exist.
Yes.
And your conflict is usually because you believe it's not okay. And I'm saying, right, that's not what the concept of forgiveness that we advocate for.
Yes, and also forms of polarization that are out there. People are familiar with, of course, with all the AI stuff and the 5G and all this other stuff. This is, also what we were just talking about, instant pudding, where people now have to forgive the aspect, let's say, or re-understand what instant pudding or lack thereof really truly means. That was also a psyops, no different than some of these other aspects of these other concepts we were talking about, that was put in their heads, like what I've said before on GIC about, say, in the beginning, when the type of orgone that we make, for instance, the tower buster types, when the talk about polarization, when people don't kind of create this flow in between, gratitude, forgiveness, and not instant pudding. When the government first started wanting to put the towers up, when this first was conceived of, people, like myself, which justifiably so, we're sensitive to this, and we're apprehensive. The same thing with smart meters when those were going up. when these people were making these tower busters that were ultra powerful, they bury them under the towers, hence tower buster. The military then outlawed these for about a decade or so, and it went pendulum swing the other direction, and then the government still continued to create these things. The other one is when smart meters came about. There was a case in Illinois in the Chicago Loop area that this woman was obviously an energy sensitive, was trying to prevent these workers from putting it up. She went to jail. The reason I'm bringing these things up is because you see this polarization or pendulum swing where, oh, we got to get rid of this now. We got to stop them now. That's not going to go down that way. So you have to, and then people get into this guilt spiral of going, oh, they won't forgive themselves by like, oh, we weren't able to stop them. We failed somewhere. Wrong. There was this planned entropy thing, as we said from the very beginning. You're seeing it, especially now in our current history. It doesn't mean you failed. It's just like in the Avengers movies where they failed to stop Thanos, and they end up having to rewrite history to bring back all the people with the Infinity Stones. They thought that failed, but in fact, it was more of a plan to actually bring everything back into balance and order. Versus how Thanos wanted to do it, killing half the people what he thought was balance and order. That's basically universally this is being the toilet cannot be circled in such a way as what was displayed in in those hardcore concepts like in the Marvel movies or in people's own thoughts when it comes to all of these other things. It's a form of entropy, yes, but this can be guided and co-created differently. So you didn't fail to get rid of these things in the past, just because they are now a main staple. Now this AI is more of a main staple, just like the Cabal wanted to be able to bring in more of this Orion AI, like in the Atlantean history. No, you didn't fail. History is not repeating itself. You don't want to get into that self-flagellating loop of, oh, history is just going to repeat itself. We failed, how is there's no forgiveness or something like this, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't know how many times I've heard that. This is not how it didn't go down, because that's not how it was meant to go down. So this is where people need to get out of that guilt spiral, because that is also being fed off. And you just find some of these workarounds, and I almost vomit a little saying that, but I'm just saying that's a temporary workaround.
The truth of the matter is not everybody is as energy sensitive. But as people in a lot are becoming that way.
And polarized, awake, not awake. You got to get out of that mindset too.
And they're not realizing why they're not feeling well. So, but they're watching their children, they're watching things going on and what's going on. So, not being able to see the invisible, right? You can't see, some people can see energy waves, but some people can't. And again, our physics is in question right now. You have the physics we have, and then you have this quantum physics that seems to explain a lot more. We can do more with it. It seems to not have exceptions. It seems to, so as these, we may develop technologies before we really understand the technology, just like Madame Curie. She didn't know it was going to kill her. I don't think she'd have been playing around with it like she was if she was going to get radiation.
Took it home, put it in the pocket, all that.
Right. So again, we're at a stage also like that, but people are becoming more sensitive. Children are coming in more sensitive, and people are seeing things. So again, as we said, and why some of the things that we make is, are they workarounds for right now? Yeah. I mean, I'm not ashamed of that, but it's because society doesn't recognize. But do I believe that the average tower worker, if he truly understood and felt what was going on, would be okay with it still?
More likely not.
No, the average human would not.
And I know people that would want to put a gun to their head if they knew what they had been a part of. So,
And I hope they don't, because how did they know? They didn't know. And so, but we are becoming more sensitive, more wise, being able, because everything is science-based. But if you go to quantum physics, the science plays out exactly like the complaints are saying. So it's just one of those things that's where we are. So should people be advocating that it is affecting people? I heard mentally about waves affecting people more now on regular TV than I've ever seen it. So the conversations are actually
They're being had now.
they are being had now.
Because there's been a real true hardcore evidence, scientific evidence.
There have been, and there are questions. Why are the plants dying? Right? Why is this happening?
All that other stuff, yeah.
So again, that takes time for any society, and we are not the first nor the last society that's going to grow up and create things that we didn't realize that we need to make better. Okay, that we need to. They're causing some harm. We need to adjust them. We need to do whatever. So some is intentional. We've always said that. They piggyback intentional things onto just technology that people don't realize. We're not saying that doesn't happen as well, but we're saying that again, in gratitude, I'm happy to see people talking about this more than I've ever seen them talk about. Okay, I'm happy that there are people interested and see a difference if they put certain types of barriers and things that that have been created and they put them in the rooms with their children, that they're seeing positive effects. I'm happy that there's these realizations, okay, that people are able to create environments in their home or around their home to be to block out some of these things so they can continue their spiritual journey and continue working and growing as others are growing, whether they realize it or not. So again, that balance of forgiveness, to not let something hold you down like an anchor, and then the energies that you are creating are actually going to the opposite of what you want.
And also, Tesla, when he created some of these like weather control and some of these also wireless technologies and stuff like that, he also helped create a purple plate that eventually would counteract poisons coming from it. So he knew we found out he was part of the controlled opposition. He himself came through and said this, to where he created the workaround counterbalance and then channeled the rest of the information the rest of the way after the fact for these purple plate technologies. Now, if you want to go into the spiritual side of all this, backtrack into this, there's two beautiful examples of one that was self-healing, but one that was also and culturally deprecating as well. So, not degenerating, but you get what I'm trying to say. The first example was from Star Trek Voyager years ago, where the character of Neelix comes across a figure that was more like a Dr. Mengele or an Adolf Hitler type of situation, where this guy had used a weapon of mass destruction to destroy his world of Rhinax, or the moon of Rhinax, and the moon's orbiting his planet of Telex, and this and it killed his family and multiple millions of people. Well, the Voyager crew was saying that he didn't really need to forgive the guy. It was his choice, but it was also a self-healing sort of thing. If he, since there was nothing that could be done about this, that it would be to forgive the person would be more self-healing. Yes, is that true sometimes? And did he end up doing it in the very end of the episode? Yes, he did, before the guy died, because the guy was dying from the very weapon that he created the radiation from it. But I also heard a phrase at one point that was also just as good. I forgive myself for falling for your stupidity and, getting involved with you to begin with. I've heard that before as well. There was another example from Voyager where the holographic doctor ends up wanting the doctor's assistant. So he finds this Cardassian person that he finds out was also like a Dr. Mengele or an Adolf Hitler type of figure. And he did not know this until this the personality of this hologram came forward. It was the same person, meaning he wanted to conduct experiments to further medical science, but he had no heart space. He wanted to continue doing these experiments to end certain ththings, but he had no empathy for anyone. It was like a Mengele type of figure. Though the character of B'Elanna Torres and also another Bajoran person that was there were very upset the doctor was using this, especially the Bajoran, because the Bajorans were oppressed by this guy and murdered and experimented on by the real version of this guy. This guy basically said there was no room for forgiveness for even using the information, nor was there room for forgiveness for using the person's image or putting the information the guy gained from the experiments in any form of historical book. Our government did that with the Nazis from paperclip. They brought in all the information that Mengele and them used in these experiments, and still continue to do it during the times of Roswell, when they experimented on those poor people that were subjected to the wormhole travel that shattered the ship over Roswell. That's another discussion and another show entirely. But the point I'm making is these were aspects, would it be enabling a behavior to forgive, or would it be self-healing to forgive, or find that spot in between? And one final example we saw very recently in the new Avatar movie, The Way of Water. There was a creature in it that was like a whale that was in that series. That one of the young kids found that was injured, had its eye injured or something like that. It had some cuts on it and everything. And the water tribal Avatar people that were in that wanted to shun this young boy, was saying, "Oh, you weren't supposed to communicate with him. He's been shunned by his own people for engaging in acts of violence." And you find out that it was actually out of self-defense, because our own people, the humans, had hunted them for their own brain chemistry or some chemical they had that would make humans immortal, like adrenochrome. So that's essentially what that was saying. Our own people were the vampires, essentially, in that series, or in that movie. What the point is that he connected with this being and saw this being was not evil. This person was just defending himself. The tribal people had no room for forgiveness in there. It was either black or white. Either you've defended your pacificity to the end, like an Amish person would, or, like a human philosophy would be, there would be like a balance between those two, to defend or be defense, or to be passive. And the tribal people weren't hearing this until at the end of the movie, when it was finally understood by the boy's father. So you see these mixes. There was like a shunning going on, but there was no room in there for any form of real healing or forgiveness. It was always this separated stagnation, but they didn't realize it was a separated stagnation. So I wanted to bring that up because I've seen these examples in all of these science fiction areas, which are based on real things, especially Avatar. So I just wanted to bring those examples up. I thought were pertinent to the topic. And also the gratitude thing was shown in that too at the very end. Gratitude for the family, this whole family is our fortress philosophy that was in it. So that was also added in. So basically, even leaving a position of power, which the main character was, to protect what he was grateful for, his family. So I find that it actually is a great example of what we're talking about.
So as we bring in somebody, just, again, the concept to remember is, again, what energies are coming from you? What are you wanting? Are you wanting to basically just keep vibrating at an energy of hatred and unfairness? Because again, you're going to tell the universe that's what you want to experience if you continually try to vibrate that way. Or is the goal that you go on and make things better? And in order to do that, how do you let go of things in a way that, again, doesn't excuse or ever say you want to be around or want to go into their shop or buy from them or do anything with something that has really wronged you? But how do you change the environment around you to not have that around you, or recognize it, or whatever it is, that you can move forward to make better changes and advocate for whatever changes need to happen? So again, that's what we're talking about. We will never, I honestly will never, I already know myself too well. You're never going to see me be okay with a child molester that I know is not reformable. You're not going to see me ever be okay.
No.
I'm going to hope they get the other side of the coin. I am going to hope they either are in jail for the rest of their lives. If a parent loses their mind and if something happens, I probably am not going to feel bad about that either. I believe people, should understand both sides of their actions, the consequences of their actions, especially if they're very egregious. And again, that is a huge societal issue in so many different categories right now of, injustices perpetrated on just, let's say, regular people. It's all over the place. It's institutionalized now. And we have to ask ourselves, are we going to get caught up in it and not move forward? Or how do we, in a productive manner, move forward to change it And that's the type of forgiveness that we're talking about.
Yes, and also the whole mask issue is also falls into this category where it's like there's no forgiveness on from either side of this still, even now, except with very few people I've seen still on Facebook and still on social media. There's still these arguments toward, yes, it was dumb. Yes, it's dumb to see people driving in their car alone with a mask on. Yes, or outside still. Yes. And yes, businesses are going the other direction where they're forbidding the usage of them to get people out of the brainwashed mindset. Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. But at the same time, you're still causing this polarization and divide and conquer. There has never really been a forgiveness when it came to this, nor should you forgive those that were oppressing you during that. Absolutely not. Because there needs to be justice there. But those guys want the little peons essentially fighting with each other. Should you forgive the corporations and cabal for doing this? Should you forgive somebody like, say, Fauci or Biden or any of them, or Trump or any of them, for causing this puppet show or being part of this? No. Should you?
Right. You should advocate that people like that should not be empowered.
Yeah.
You know, but again, you have a choice. You can either give it energy in a negative way or not give energy. And one of the things that I say is that, you know, in gratitude, I am glad I am somebody who saw through it. I truly am. I mean,
we're ahead of the curve a little bit. Yeah.
Well, right. But I mean, again, I actually had many years in a career that prepared me to not agree with what was going on and not understand and watch this thing completely unfold and envelop people into a mindset that psychologically damaged them. So for me, I am in gratitude again. Which one are you going to choose? I'm in gratitude that I am seeing this the way that I am seeing this right now. And when I see people in masks, a couple things I'll tell you. First of all, if someone is immunocompromised, truly, physically, and they want to wear a mask, good for them. Because again, they're at least trying to get out in society, but they really have a compromised immune system that could cause serious illness. Take precautions. You shouldn't be judging over that. If another person may actually have reaped a lot of psychological damage from what was perpetrated upon them, who are you to judge that? Okay, and call them stupid.
But it is funny when you see them driving their car.
Well, maybe, again,
Yeah.
Something funny going, God, I'm glad I'm not doing that. I'm glad I not follow that. That's one way. But when I see stuff like that, I actually have, for some of them, if they're ill, I always wish them well. In my mind, I'm like, if you're ill, I wish you well. If this is psychological damage, I sure wish you well, because it's not just the mask that's now affected in them.
Mhm.
They are messed up.
There's something psychologically messed up.
And it's affecting other areas, and I always wish them well.
So people get into these habitual patterns, and that has fallen into this pattern. It's kind of like when a monk in their subconscious does a chant in their subconscious, and they do that affirmation, blessing, and mantra. It's a similar thing that took place where it embedded in this person's subconscious, and therefore it has brought out this like disorder like behavior.
So again, you have choices, and I hope you choose to truly wish other people well, wish them their highest good, whatever that is, because you should be in gratitude if you're happy with this issue, that you're not seeing things that way, that you may be perceiving governmental issues, medical issues, whatever, in a bigger, broader way now, because if you didn't ever see it, it could never be changed. Okay. So be in gratitude for that and for where you are, and then just wish people their highest good, be it their health. And as long as, again, something isn't being forced upon you, obviously, if something's being forced upon you, you have a right to advocate for yourself. We're not saying that. Or you could choose that if someone owns a private business and they want it to go down a certain way, then you may choose to not do business with them anymore. But they have a right as a business owner, especially in this country, to do what they wish. Okay, they can make every employee wear a red shirt for every day they work there. So don't go there, because it really is more of a hook to get you into a cycle of being upset and being mad. Spend your energies advocating for things that you think are good for societal matters. And then again, allow for the healing to occur inside yourself so you can let this other stuff go and you can continue to move forward. And that is my definition of forgiveness.
Yes, also learn to laugh when you see a few people driving with masks on.
It's important. Absolutely.
I saw a whole family of even the baby in the back and the other two kids, the wife and the husband, all were wearing them in the same car with each other. And they spotted me looking at them. They drove off real fast. So it's like, yeah.
But again, so that's not what we're talking about.
But that's where I wanted to leave that because I found that hilarious. But that was back when we were in Arizona. But we're obviously, you can see we're in a different environment now. So we're in Virginia Beach now. So this I'll see who wishes to talk. Oh, we did go quite a while already. We want to keep these episodes to roughly an hour. So I know Isaac, no, no, I know you're there, but let's see. I know Elena and Vessa were present earlier. I know Chrome was present briefly, but who's going to speak this morning? Or I should say this afternoon. This is almost 1 o'clock here. So was it Elena or Vessa? Oh, Vessa, okay. I'm having a hard time seeing all of you. I'm not sure why. There's so many plants and trees out there. It shouldn't be that garbled, but okay. I know briefly you're going to make that connection. Hang on. Not sure why there's so much interference for this topic today, but right, let's see. A little bit that comes from that direction. So there we go. If people are wondering what I'm doing, it's kicking off some of the interference, like if you're shooing a bug away or something like that. It's kind of a similar concept. So through this new crystal. Well, I know it's not new. I owned it before, but just yes, this one. Okay. That was fast. No, that was not actually. That was more of a slap. Okay. Yeah. Meaning stop being so anal. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes, dears. This is Vesa. This is a wonderful topic that is being spoken about. You'll find that I am more like yourselves, where I'm in a spot in between, given circumstantial any situations that come up. Elaine and I do butt heads on this from time to time, or argue on this from time to time ourselves. So of the application of when to apply forgiveness, gratitude, and stuff like that, and concepts like this. We are grateful for being around each other, around all of you, speaking this way, all of us. However, as he likes to say, he's not grateful for the oppression. It's you can't be in that how people put it, that thy will be done attitude, where it's like that Job type of attitude. No matter what shows up, the person was forgiving, accepting. That is not a place to be. That was teaching the wrong lesson there. That was more of an Orion oppressive situation to try to get people to engage in bad repetitive behavior, or like what you were saying with the masks, with a certain subconscious set of behavior. This was okay. Like with ironically, like with Abraham and Isaac, with him wanting to sacrifice his son because God told him to, and he didn't check the idea of who told him to do this. Granted, it was still Enlil, but we will not go into that. It was technically still Yahweh, but we're not going to go into that topic. I'm just saying, getting into a set of behaviors because a God told you or an outside source told you, and not utilizing your own intuition. And if you've gotten to a point where you no longer do that, good, but forgive the aspect of you, the old version of you that fell for certain things or were a certain way. That is important. And being in gratitude, you are not that person anymore. The artificial intelligence and some of these negative beings now will try to keep you in an old pattern. Pulling that, as he likes to say, pulling the bowstring back to a specific spot, like Chrome was speaking about on an episode of GIC that time. where it tries to keep you in an old pattern so that they can get in an old repetitious form of oppression. Older cultures did this because they were desperate for outside intervention, so they fell for Orion, blood sacrificial, and draconian rites and such in the past. I'm not saying anything but the Kabbalistic satanic cults are this way. I'm saying there's still a pattern here that keeps people in an old pattern, an old guilt-ridden pattern, because they feel that they were more oppressed at a certain spot and they won't forgive themselves. Now you see this pattern happening to where ever since your COVID came about in 2020, people think they've angered some god somewhere, so they're reverting back to an older form of oppression, which was Christianity and other religious indoctrinations. They're going back to an older form of oppression. You saw this with some of your readers at one point where they went back to that, thinking that they had gone into sacrilegious territory. And this is blasphemous territory. This goes into self-flagellating, then this ends up back into an older form of oppression. This is happening quite a bit lately. This is actually happening more than you think, unfortunately. Not just the physical whipping, this does still occur in smaller circles, but mentally the same. And this is basically, this also goes to the other end of the spectrum of the supposed awake as well, where they denigrate the asleep. And they're essentially saying, even though there is stupidity out there, I'm not going to lie, they are basically saying, why did we put up with you? Why did we allow you to do this? Why do we allow you to make decisions? Then they feel guilty and unforgiving of themselves for that. And then they become brutal towards the other half. The same with the ones that feel guilt and shame over it on the other end, which that is also not true across the board. The supposed awake communities will say, oh, they'll all hang their heads in shame when they realize what they've done. No, that's not true at all. People are individual people, and it's not going to be a mass awakening and a mass denigration or guilt trip on the other half of the spectrum from that awakening. No. And as he was saying, do you have to feel uncomfortable to evolve like a lobster in his shell, like what you were saying? Yes, that's true. But on the other hand, that's also not true, because there is joy and laughter on the other end of the spectrum, also a form of evolving. So with that said, I will go into questions.
So, I think that, we had recorded a show on this obviously many years ago, but so much has happened since then that, people could have listened to the other show before and been like, okay, that's okay. But now it really applies because of all of the multiple issues that are continuing. And again, like I said, when it puts us into a certain mindset, it actually allows for more of it to continue, because we are actually ourselves kind of backtracked a little bit, as you were alluding to, where some people were backtracking back into old mindsets of religion, in fear. Really, I think they had to question themselves, and they became in fear of an angry God.
Yeah.
That's why they backtracked back into it, because they must have gone too far, because this wouldn't have happened when that was, believe it or not, a psyops to do that to them. Mm-hmm. So in truth. So but my curiosity is, because we were thinking about what would be an appropriate word or an appropriate phrase to really get across the concept of what we're talking, that we're talking about, because that word forgiveness has been so, I'm going to say, bastardized. I don't know what to say besides that. And what its meaning is to help you, okay? Because the meaning that it's being used for doesn't help you for most people. That,
people get irked that it's linked to religion, therefore they don't do it, because they think they throw the baby out with the bathwater from the psyops perspective on that end of the spectrum.
Right. So the only phrase I came up with was healing to move on. But I mean, I don't know, when you guys talk about this, is there any other phrases or thought process of what we're trying to do here? People
seem to have this, what would you call it, a cringe factor when it comes to talking about these things, because they think it's all the psyops. And then, like you said, there's good aspects over here as well with the forgiveness aspect as you know it. So blending it in the middle, there really isn't a known word for that at the moment, because your language has not accepted something that is not not, or I hate to use the term non-binary, talk about cringe moment right there. That is a mega cringe moment. I know there was a reason I brought that up to make people uncomfortable because it is literally in the middle of this or that or non-polarized. We'll just say non-polarized. So it is, you could say non-binary forgiveness, but that cringe makes people cringe. So non-polar forgiveness or non-binary forgiveness. Let's just say that one, since that made the majority of you, or will, when you see this recording, cringe like a little child in the corner when you hear that, because it is associated with the other garbage. But to take away from the cringe factor, that's essentially still true.
Right. We can make t-shirts saying I'm a non-binary forgiver, meaning don't do it again or I'll kill you. But
don't do it again or I'll. But I'm sorry, I forgive myself for falling for your shit. So
right, that's what I mean. That's what we're actually kind of saying. So I kind of like that. But
and it's marketable.
It's marketable, really. So
copyrighted to these two, don't use it.
So, which is great. So, and again, to be able to laugh about it is very, very important. And so we really didn't spend a lot of time on gratitude. So I think, you know, we should probably talk a little bit about gratitude in these times. What do you think?
Yes, most definitely be grateful for what you have, but at the same time, don't let that position create a wall, like what he was saying. Don't let that position create a blockage. Therefore, you're not let's just say manifesting differently, or like you say, deny the known, manifest differently, which is brilliant, by the way, even though that was a phrase from your years past, more than you realize. This deny the known, meaning these known sets, or as I said, non-binary forgiver, as you would say, or in gratitude, being gratitude, but be grateful for what you have, but also know that to be open to receiving more, because some people fall into that little spiral, as he said earlier, to where they're grateful for what they have, but they don't want to attain more, or allow, the proper word is allow more to flow into their space. So they're putting that own block up and co-creating, batting away anything else that could possibly fill that space, because they have this set gratitude for knowing in place, but the opposite end, or the polarized end of that spectrum. Gratitude also has to be non-binary, so, or non-polar. So a non-binary person in gratitude, whatever the hell word you want to add to that hashtag. But this, that's how he had it in his head anyway. This is where I'm at with that as well.
So in general, again, for people that feel that they have swung so far to one side, getting back in gratitude, I think, again, I always say start simple. I mean, truly start simple. If you can take a few moments, and you are lucky enough to have trees and birds, it's springtime, you're able to see flowers come up, maybe when you're driving or whatever, and you can just try to get into current present moment and just admire them. Just say they're beautiful. Just say small steps, because some people are so tied up in knots right now. I can't express how tied up in knots some people are, that, you know, how do you break out of it? The goal is truly to start simple. And again, quick moments in time will start to undo that. Finding something like what we just did, finding something that makes you laugh will help to undo that. So if you love those funny cat and dog videos or whatever, read that. Look at that instead of some of the other stuff maybe that you're reading, where you need to start to undo some of the knot that you're in, you know, which a lot of people are a mess right now from everything that they've seen, from the new discoveries. They wanted to know what was really going on out there, and now it's being presented that you really can't ignore. You can try for a long time to disbelieve it, but you're internally probably like this, because you don't want to believe it's real. You want to believe what's coming out of people's mouths, but your heart and soul are telling you, but what you're seeing is something else, and it's a very difficult time. So try to find little things to be grateful for, you know, and it could be as simple as you open the door, let somebody in, and they smiled and said, thank you. Be grateful for that. Be grateful for these little things. They build into larger things. Let that back in. It will aid in your healing.
Yes. Yes. So that, and also having what would you say, too many plans behind things create manifestation loops, but enacting a plan and planting that seed and letting it grow, good. And also not always having to be uncomfortable, but lobster, as you always use the example of being too tight knit shell, yes, that is a form of growth, but on the flip side of it, noticing the little things as well to cap off or sum up all of this is actually the totality, or what people would understand as the totality of the picture at this moment in time in those particular areas.
And don't underestimate, again, if you get into the right mindset, and again, we've said this a lot, where you feel like, I'm just sitting at my home, what can I do? Your thoughts, your intentions really are things. So for example, you see on the news, they're trying to promote war, they're trying to promote this. Do you accept that? I mean, it should be swift, no. That energy, no, should be coming through you. We're not negotiating, no. Nobody's sons and daughters are going into war here. No, this is not going to happen. Because again, part of the spell work that has been done over humanity before is using their energies and getting them to agree to things, because that totality of the energy will co-create the event. So you are not helpless. Even if you feel that, what can I do? Your mindset on how things should be and how you want society, that energy is enormous, and it actually then collects with others people's energy that are saying that's not the experience I want, and then it coalesces. That's probably why some of these things are also becoming uncovered. It's the energies of the people saying, I want to know the truth. It's the energies
layer
of the
upon
people.
layer, uncovering all the different layers.
Exactly. And again, there's a lot of layers. So there's a little bit of endurance here, because you want to know, wow, now you get to know, and you get to see the layer on top of layer on top of layer. But again, things can't be changed unless you really know what's going on out there.
People always think that they have to go to war or go to battle to physically to do these things. And yes, some are meant for those purposes, but others, you've heard, to also forgive a phrase, those who gather, more than two that gather in my name, is actually a true biblical phrase where you're focused on the common goal and the common co-creative marker or waypoint, as it were. That's why there are people who are ahead of the curve to spread those fires of information to, you say, help awaken the masses, but in their own way, in the spots and in the lanes that they're meant to be within.
Right. So I just want to, because we are going to try to honor keeping these shows to a reasonable time frame. So I'm just going to turn it over to you for any last words on the subject.
Yes, I believe what was said is good. Just remember, as he has this in his head at the moment, hashtag non-binary forgiver. Not to be associated with the satanic trans movement that is going on at the moment. Also, non-binary gratitude, the same, not to be associated with the other garbage, but it is still a marketable phrase within your own life, keeping it in the center and grounded, not in the polarized versions of reality that you know them to be within. And so now this is probably going to be stuck in his head for a long time. So with that said, I thank you. And we are grateful, both me and Elena are grateful. Yes, you too, Isaac, talking about non-binary gratitude over there. But in this particular way, that's a hint. But in this particular way, we are grateful. So thank you. She likes to make fun of him a lot, I noticed. If people go to the episode of the lifting I put on Rumble, when one door opens, another door closes. Of course, that's another biblical phrase we've used, and it's been used ad nauseum, but it applied to that episode. If you go to the end of the section about the Valley of Fire, you will hear them bashing each other quite a bit in that section. So that's putting that in context right there. So yeah, I found that hilarious when they use the term non-binary. That takes the sting out of what is going on politically right now. And whether you agree with that other stuff over there or not is irrelevant at the moment. That's still, they took the polarization or the binariness out of the politics and made it all neutral and inclusive. So ironically, people like to associate that with the left. They just took it and put it all in one big glob. So notice how how rewording things slightly made it to where it is not aligned with anything political, but you can still separate out all the garbage associated with a lot of this politically right, left or right. Notice how it didn't adhere to either side. So that's a true non-binary, but at the same time, you got to know what's right and what's wrong as well. So I will leave that here before I go into that topic. That's probably a show in and of itself. So which that would have to be on subscription at some point. But thank you, everybody. But you want to go into the last affirmation blessing?
Yes, blessings to everyone that is out there listening to us now and in the future. We appreciate your support, and we just like to say that self-forgiveness is probably one of the most important things you can do for yourself in this lifetime. So think about what we've said, what we really believe forgiveness is, and we wish everyone their highest good.
Yeah, so same here. Thank you everybody for watching this episode of The Lifting. And also, please subscribe to GalacticIntraversalConsortium.com. There's a lot of good and new content on there currently. So thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. And we close this circle. So bye-bye, everybody.